Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of January 13th, 2026. It's good to be back. I'd like to ask for the roll call, please.
Mayor Sidney.
Present.
Revimo.
Present.
Councillor Leguri.
Present.
Councillor McWhorter.
Present.
Councillor McDonald.
Present.
Councillor Cebulski.
Present.
Councillor Andrew.
Present.
And Mayor Sidney, we do have quorum.
Thank you very much. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Can I please ask you to stand for O Canada? Any declarations of interest? Hearing and seeing none. Public meeting? None. On to delegations. We have a delegation from Mr. Bruce Rozicki about water meter replacement program. Bruce, if you'd like to come up and make sure the green light's on. Just to remind council and everybody, Bruce, you have 10 minutes. If they have any clarifying questions for Mr. Rozicki, please do that. This is not time to get into debates and all that stuff, but if you do have questions that you would like answered, we can notice a motion for staff. Do a notice of motion for staff to look into whatever question you may have. So, Mr. Rozicki, I turn it over to you.
Thanks.
Welcome.
My name is Bruce Rozicki. I reside at 81 Stevenson Crescent in Renfrew with my wife, Melanie Robinson. I've lived in Renfrew since 1999. I'm appearing before council today to discuss the water meter replacement program, which was approved by council at the October 28, 2025 council meeting. I have a concern that the justification for this expensive project has not been adequately communicated to council or the public, and that the impact on ratepayers through higher sewer and water bills has not been considered. The stated goal of this project is to generate greater revenue from new water meters, and ratepayers of Renfrew will be the ones supplying that additional revenue. Here's some background information on Renfrew's project. The town will replace 1,421 water meters, which is 56% of current meters that are 20 plus years old, over a 2-year period at a cost of $1,086,019, primarily because the meters have become inaccurate and the town is losing revenue. The project was sole sourced to Neptune Technologies. Funding is from water and sewer reserves in the 2026-2027 tax levy. Renfrew moved from flat rate water to metered water in the early 2000s and has approximately 2,800 water meters that are approaching the end of their life cycle. My background includes 37 years with Enbridge Gas, where in one of my roles as manager of operations, I was responsible for gas meter replacement programs in Eastern Ontario, and 10 years as a director with Renfrew Hydro. I'm currently board chair at Hydro, and electric meter replacement programs are a routine business function. This, combined with many hours of research, and I'm probably looking at about 50 or 60 hours I've spent on this, into municipal water meter programs, bring me before council today with a great deal of confidence. Due to the mechanics of how a water meter degrades over time, an old, inaccurate meter could be under reading, anywhere between 4% to 10%. If there is a very low flow, like a dripping tap, an old meter may be out by up to 20%. Water meters can start to lose accuracy at 10 to 15 years, and at 20 years, it is generally cost-effective to replace the meter because the old meter is not generating as much revenue for the municipality. The return on investment for the municipality can be between 1 and 6 years. The technical challenge is that not all meters at 20 years are grossly inaccurate. Studies have shown that between 42% and 72% of these old meters should be replaced. Now, gas and electric utilities do random sampling and testing of old meters to determine which ones to replace. This prevents perfectly good meters that have retained most of their accuracy from being replaced. To the best of my knowledge, no sampling has been completed on our meters in Renfrew, and when I asked town staff about it, I was told that Neptune's methodology was proprietary. Well, their proprietary data analytics is called Statistical Evaluation for Enhancement of Revenue, or SEER. I assume and I hope that the 1,421 meters selected for replacement are the most inaccurate ones based on Neptune's analysis of Renfrew's 20-plus-year-old meters. Neptune claims a 95% confidence level. It will be very difficult to verify this at the end of the project. Despite Neptune's analytics and without any sampling, I believe this project will end up replacing many good meters at a cost of $650 per installation, which is extremely inefficient. My second concern is that the impact of this program on ratepayers may be significant. When a new accurate meter is installed, the ratepayer may experience an increase in their water consumption on their next bill, simply because the old meter was inaccurate and the new one is reading the true consumption. Now, for some ratepayers in this situation, in addition to seeing a higher water bill, they will also be seeing higher rates. With water and sewer rates scheduled to increase in Renfrew 2.5% this year and 2.6% in 2027, ratepayers in Renfrew may see an increase of up to 15% on their bills over the span of the 2-year water meter replacement project. This is double dipping at its worst. Can you imagine the reaction of ratepayers to a 15% increase in their sewer and water bills? My third concern is about the project proposal that was provided to council by staff. The proposal is dependent on one industry source, Neptune Technologies Canada. Neptune is a very effective business model. They sell us water meters, then 20 years later they advise us that these same water meters are old, inaccurate, and the town is losing revenue. Then Neptune offers to replace all the old inaccurate meters for $650 per installation. They would have provided financial data that shows a quick return on investment through increased revenue. It's not difficult to connect the dots. Neptune makes their money selling water meters. It's their business. The actual proposal from Neptune, which would include their methodology, has not been made public, despite my requests. The project proposal barely mentions revenue loss from the old meters and focuses mainly on the cost of the program and benefits from better electronic information. There are no options listed to the replacement methodology, no mention of the financial impact on ratepayers, no identification of risks, no communication plan, no recognition that ratepayers may respond poorly, no return on investment listed. Most importantly, there is no process to measure the success or failure of the project. Renfrew has some of the highest sewer and water rates in Eastern Ontario, and this additional burden is unreasonable and inequitable. We are not living in normal times in Renfrew. With a massive Mattaway debt load, a $102,000 monthly payment for 30 years, emotional budget battles, sorry, I lost my spot there, questionable projects, multiple CAOs, and huge accounting mistakes, all resulting in property tax hikes that will approach 37% for the 4 years of this council. I believe it is incumbent on staff and council to lessen the financial impact of this water meter replacement program on ratepayers who, through no fault of their own, currently have an old inaccurate water meter that will be replaced. 1,421 ratepayers will not respond well to this project. When they see their accurate consumption from the new meter and new cost of water, it may become a tipping point. Ratepayers may very well start to conserve more water than ever, and the increase in revenue may not materialize. Let me be perfectly clear. I'm not suggesting that the old meters don't need to be replaced. The longer they're left in service, the more inaccurate they will become, and the transition to new meters will become even more problematic. I'm here to ask Council to pause and re-examine this program through a fairness and affordability lens before further implementation. Specifically, I'm asking Council to direct staff to select a random sample of the meters replaced in year 1 of the program and have them tested for accuracy. The results could influence the program for year 2. It would be a small investment to verify Neptune's methodology. Remember, every properly working meter that is replaced is a waste of $650. Secondly, I believe Council should cancel any increase to sewer and water rates during the replacement program, offering some relief to affected ratepayers who will see an increase on their water bills due to the more accurate meters. And lastly, I ask Council to direct staff to prepare a comprehensive project plan, which really doesn't exist, that clearly identifies objectives, scope, resources, costs, timelines, risks, how success will be measured, return on investment, a communication plan, impact on ratepayers, and a complaint resolution process. These steps would not stop the program, but they would improve it, reduce unnecessary costs, and demonstrate to residents that Council is actively protecting ratepayers during a period of significant financial strain. Council has a difficult job, particularly given the broader financial pressures facing Renfrew. I believe this is an opportunity to show leadership by ensuring that major infrastructure decisions are transparent, evidence-based, and equitable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rizicki. Any clarifying questions? Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. You're talking about the replacement, and you're talking about a tax increase free period. Are you specifically talking with regard to the individuals that have the water meter replaced?
It wouldn't be a tax increase freeze. It would be
Yes.
a freeze on water sewer
yes.
rate increases.
Yeah.
I would leave that up to Council to determine if that's feasible to do. But I strongly feel that Council should provide some sort of relief to residents.
Yeah. Councilor McDonald?
Thank you. You've done a lot of research. Thank you, sir. And what I'm wondering about, with the research you've done in terms of what do you feel would be an appropriate tax-free increase period with regard to water sewage? What makes sense to you after all the research you've done?
Well, I would suggest that during the duration of the replacement program, there'd be no, which is 2 years, I assume, there would be no increase to sewer and water rates. That would be, I think, a significant gesture on the part of Council and the town to cushion the impact of these new water meters. You know, there's the fact of this is you're losing revenue because the meters are getting old. That no one disputes that. It's an industry-wide issue. We're in a position here in Renfrew because we went from non-metered to metered water a little over 20 years ago. We've got this glut of meters that are water meters are now coming due and need to be replaced. Typically, municipalities replace a certain number every year. Some people, you have a smaller number of ratepayers that have to deal with it. It's a huge problem for us right now. And I am extremely concerned that we've gone with one company on this. You know, as I said, gas and electric utilities, as you know, I worked for Enbridge for many, many years. All the hydro utilities, they all do sampling. They go out and sample the existing meters. They get them tested. They do a statistical analysis. They group them to families of ages and conditions, and they replace the meters that need to be replaced. I don't know the 1,421 meters that have been identified for this year. I don't know if they're the most inaccurate meters, or they're just half the meters they're going to replace? Maybe staff can answer that question.
Councillor LeGray?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. First of all, I want to thank you for coming out. We're not specialists in everything, so it's great when the public, when you know something about something, that you come in and share your information with us. I just have a question with your comment about holding the water and sewer rates. I don't think we can, is that not, like, council doesn't really make that, do they? Like, is that not, I don't know if the Treasury, can I ask the Treasury Department to explain that so we're clear? How the water rates come to us as council?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So the town, the water and wastewater system is a cost recovery system. It functions under a license from the Ministry of Environment, and there's a long-term water and wastewater financial plan that the town has to have in place that sets the rates for a period of time and then is followed. And then that's what we base the rates on, is the long-term water and wastewater financial plan, so that the costs are met through the revenues, and that's part of the budget that shows the increase for 2026. We follow the chart in the wastewater financial plan, water financial plan. So, and then that'll come up for renewal, and then that plan will be updated and then carry on for like its next 6 years once that's done.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to caution council too that we're not going to get into a debate
No.
right now. If you have any questions that you would like answered, you can forward them to staff and they'll get back to you on those ones. So, another clarifying question? Yeah, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you. Mayor, through you. When you mention cost recovery, it's not 100% cost recovery, obviously, or else this would be paid for as we go along. So when you use the term cost recovery, what are we specifically talking about?
Treasurer?
Thank you. So like the system has its own funding, so it doesn't affect the tax levy on a regular basis. The water system revenues and any grants it receives pay for the operation of the water system. So does that answer your question? Like, so cost recovery means all the users pay for the system itself. So when we send out water billing and invoicing, those revenues are what fund the system.
Any clarifying questions before we? Okay. Councillor Zabalski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. The clarifying question would be is, because I'd like to follow it up with a motion because we need to have a further discussion, but clarifying question isn't to Mr. Ruzicki, but it would be to our Treasury staff. The motion that came out of the October 28th meeting, 2025, have we signed a contract with Neptune to date, or is that something that's coming? If I can get a yes or no on that, then I'd like to make a motion.
Treasurer?
So yeah, the contract was signed by council in the fall, and the project phase 1 is underway already because of that in the new year. So it's already proceeding.
If there's any more questions to staff, can we forward them to staff so that they can do that? And take the time to not put them on the spot. Any other clarifying questions for Mr. Ruzicki?
Could I make a comment?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure I perfectly understand what the treasurer stated, that contract has been signed with Neptune, yet the money for that contract has not been approved in the budget. Is that correct?
Deputy Treasurer?
If I may clarify, yeah. The water and sewer budgets for 2025 and 2026 both including the water meter replacement program. And in the resolution that went to council, the recommendation motion, it was to include funding in the 2026 water and sewer budgets for the, I guess, second portion of phase 1 of that program.
Mr. Ruzicki? For me? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. Who has control of the file right now?
Treasury Department. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for your time and your research. We appreciate it. Okay. Moving on to presentations. Let's go put it out. One sec here.
So I would like to ask Jason Healy, partner McKilligan Associates.
I'd like to ask Jason Healy, partner of Milken & Associates, Chartered Professional Accountants, to provide the 2024 audited financial statements. Please come up and to make sure that light's green.
Okay, I'd like to thank Council for the opportunity to present the draft consolidated financial statements. And I'd like to remind everyone that these financial statements will remain in draft format until such time as they're approved by Council. On the second page of the, and if anyone has any questions at any time, please feel free to ask. On the second page of the financial statements, it's entitled The Management's Responsibility for the Consolidated Financial Statements, and it points out that the financial statements are the responsibility of the town's management and prepared in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. If we turn to the what's page number 1 and page number 2, which are the 4th and 5th pages of the printout, what's entitled the Independent Auditor's Report. I want to go over some of the report with the Council. So the qualified opinion paragraph states, identifies whose financial statements have been audited. In this case, it's the consolidated statements of the town of Renfrew. And the consolidated statements include, on note 1AI, the amounts for the town of Renfrew, the town of Renfrew Waterworks, the town of Renfrew Wastewater System, the Renfrew Public Library Board, and the Renfrew Downtown Business Improvement Association. And the paragraph states that our conclusion is based on the results of our audit evidence. This is a stated opinion rather than a statement of absolute fact or a guarantee. The conclusion is based on our professional judgment. And in this case, we believe the consolidated financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. The report also indicates the date covered by the financial statements is 31st December 2024. On the basis for qualified opinion paragraph, note that our audit opinion is qualified due to the asset retirement obligation cost estimates not being up to date. It's our understanding that the town is in the process of having this estimate updated for 2026. This paragraph also states that the opinion is in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards and that we are independent in accordance with our ethical requirements. And then on the responsibility of management and those charged with governance for the financial statements, this section of the auditor's report describes the responsibilities of those in the organization who are responsible for the preparation of the financial statements. And then if we turn the page, it's the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements states that the responsibility of the auditor is to obtain reasonable assurance that the consolidated financial statements are free from material misstatements. And reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee. The audit conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. So if we could turn to page number 3, which is the consolidated statement of financial position, I will go over the kind of the highlights. Again, if you have questions, please ask. We see that the total financial assets have decreased by $2.3 million as follows. We see the cash is up $215,000, and for a detailed analysis on the change in cash, we can see the statement of cash flow on page 6. We also note that the accounts receivable have increased by $500,000 due to an increase in provincial grants receivable. We can see that the investment in government business enterprises has increased $1.2 million due to the income for the Renfrew Power Generation of about $1 million, net of distributions to the town, and income for Renfrew Hydro of about $230,000, again, net of distributions to the town. You can see from the financial liabilities side that they've increased $4.8 million as follows. Accounts payable are down $2.4 million due to a decrease in general payables and holdbacks payable. and some other small changes in payables. Deferred revenue obligatory reserve funds have decreased $600,000 from prior year due to a decrease in the gas tax of $77,000 and a decrease in Parks and Rec of $392, transportation of $226, and some other small increases in various obligatory reserves. Other deferred revenue is up $500,000 due to a grant from OCF that's not spent at year end. We see the long-term liabilities have increased $7.1 million due to an increase in the temporary loan of $8 million less the scheduled debt repayments made during the year. You can see that the asset retirement obligation has increased $219,000 from prior year due to the change in estimate. And this leaves the town with a net financial liabilities of $28 million. We see in the non-financial assets, tangible capital assets have increased $10 million due to the additions of $15 million exceeding the amortization of $5 million for the year. And this results in an overall accumulated municipal equity of just over $125 million. Would also note that reserves have decreased slightly by $72,000. Are there any questions on the consolidated statement of financial position?
Any questions from council? Hearing none.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll turn to page number 4, which is the consolidated statement of operations. We can see that the revenues are up $2.8 million from the prior year due to an increase in taxation of about $1.4 million, increase in federal grants from prior year of just over $1 million, and an increase in user charges from last year, about $450,000. We can also see that the government business enterprises are not budgeted for, along with the loss and disposal of assets. And the change in the asset retirement obligation also not budgeted for. On the expenditure side, you can see that the general government expenses increased about $394,000 from last year due to increase in professional fees of $279 and increase in various salaries. You can see the government expenses are $484 over budget again due to professional fees being over about $330 and then some other small amounts over budget. The protection expenses have increased $850 from last year due to an increase in new equipment expense of $283 and contracted services $291 and training expenses and some various other increases in wages. And protection is over budget by $574 again due to the equipment and the contracted services. Transportation services expenses have increased by $490,000 due to increase in wages, and the expenses are $340 under budget due to construction materials and contracted services being under budget. Environmental expenses have increased about $335 from last year due to increases in aqua of about $280,000, contracted services about $56, and construction materials. And environmental expenses are $250 under budget due to salaries being lower than budgeted amounts. And finally, recreation expenses have increased about $1 million due to an increase in salaries, $261, and debenture interest of $828. Recreation is to $113 over budget, mainly due to salaries. The other expenditures are consistent with budget amounts and generally in line with that of the prior year. Overall, there was a consolidated excess of revenues over expenses of $7.2 million. Does anyone have any questions on the consolidated statement of operations?
Any questions? Councillor Zabowski?
Thank you. Just can you explain the excess shortfall of revenue over expenses? So am I seeing that right? Are we over budget by $2.2 million? Is that what I see correctly, or am I misreading this line item?
No, that's the budget amounts for sure, but there are adjustments to the budget. Like when you budget, you don't budget for amortization, so amortization is added into the budgeted amounts. But that's right. There's a shortfall of 2.2.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
Okay, so then would like to also reference on page number 22 is the schedule of general operations. So very similar to the consolidated statement of operations. Kind of maybe more in line with budget amounts, but sorry, page 19, I'm sorry. So we can see that the scheduled general operations has a $6.8 million surplus for the year, with the bulk of it, 6.6, being transferred to equity and intangible capital assets, along with some being transferred to the library and some from reserves. We can also see on page 23, the library statements present fairly in all materials respects. On the BAA on page 29, present fairly in all material respects. On page 35, the Stewart Bequest Trust present fairly in all material respects. On page 47, the Renfrew Parks and Recreation Fundraising Committee present fairly. On page 54, the Town of Renfrew Swimming Pool Trust presented fairly. And on page 60, the Wilson Bequest Trust also presented fairly. I'm happy to take any questions from anybody at this time.
Any questions from council? Hearing none? Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Before we go into that, I want to thank the staff and the budget committee for the work and recommendations on the draft staff budget. I know you worked very hard. The staff really crunched the numbers, and the committee worked really hard while I was gone, and I really appreciate all that. I met last week with the treasurer and department heads to review the recommendations. As a result, I have established the proposed 2026 mayoral budget as outlined in the mayoral decision MDE 2026-01 that was posted and circulated yesterday afternoon. Treasurer Hodge will now walk council through the proposed 2026 mayoral budget, noting that any changes that were made from the recommendations put forward by the budget committee on December 16th. I would like to note that these updates relate only to capital items and reserve transfers and do not impact the operating budget or the tax levy. The tax levy remains at 7.73% as recommended by the budget committee on December 16th. So I'll now turn it over to our treasurer. Oh, sorry, I did that.
I got to do that over again. Sorry.
Sorry, can I just jump back to the financial statements for a second? You just jumped before I could. I want to make a comment.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So I deal with financial statements because of my job as a district manager, so I go through these like all the time, but anybody that doesn't go through these, that was like super quick. Like I physically, he's like 47, 52, and this is nothing against Mr. Healy, but looking around, just even me, I'm confused. I'm trying to keep up with him to kind of go through stuff, and yes, I did read them prior to it, but going forward, that cannot happen again. Like, I'm sorry, but, and people can disagree with me if they want, but I had a headache trying to just keep up with them, like, from page to page, so I wanted to make that comment, because a lot of people here probably don't have no idea what just happened. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to repeat that because my mic was off. So moving on to the mayoral budget update. I want to thank staff and the budget committee for their work and recommendations on the draft staff budget. I know that you worked very hard. Staff crunched some numbers. The committee met several times, and I appreciate all the hard work that you did. I met last week with the treasurer and department heads to review the recommendations. As a result, I have established a proposed 2026 mayoral budget as outlined in the mayoral decision MDE 2026-01 that was posted and circulated yesterday afternoon. Treasurer Hodge will walk council through the proposed 2026 mayoral budget, noting any changes that were made from the recommendations put forward by the budget committee on December 16th. I would like to note that these updates relate only to capital items and reserve transfers and do not impact the operating budget or the tax levy. The tax levy remains at 7.73% as recommended by the budget committee on December 16th. And I will now turn it over to our treasurer for the report.
Thank you. So we've prepared a short presentation this evening for a summary of the 2026 budget mayor proposed that has come out of the budget committee's recommendation. So on the next slide on the screen, after the title page, we're looking at some slides that you've seen before through the budget committee, and that we'll reiterate as part of the summary. So today we're on the bottom left corner square. It's January 12th and 13th, which is the mayor proposed budget and coming out of the MDE. And then the red box will be the next step in this process, which the clerk's going to provide more of a report and a background on the strong mayor budget process following these slides. On the next slide, once again, we're resharing the strategies from the Road to 2035 strategic plan, which are the things that feed into the whole approach taken with the budget in formulating it. On the next slide, we're also reiterating the definition of a tax levy, and that under through the budget committee process, we were looking at a 1% tax levy increase represents $124,942. So on the next slide, we're looking at the updates. So right now, the budget has an operating budget of $23,612,560. And as was said, there's no updates to the Budget Committee's draft 2026 budget taxation levy. That levy is still at $13,460,726, and that's still a 7.73% increase being represented over the 2025 taxation levy. For the capital portion of the budget, the total comes to $10,744,080. There were 4 changes that were updated from the Budget Committee's draft. The first one listed there is council devices for 2026 to the 2030 term. That was an amount that the Budget Committee had removed from the capital project list. That's been added back for $7,000. The second item is a community improvement plan, CIP review, for $50,000. That was another request from the original capital list that's been added back. And from the last Budget Committee meeting, there had been Robert Drive added for $345,450. That has since been removed in this current version. And what has been added is also a sidewalk plow, the actual plow that goes on a sidewalk machine for the town, to replace that in 2026 from a plow that's been experiencing a lot of troubles, a lot of breakdowns, and some serious concerns that just came up last week. So that it's appropriate timing to add that at that time after being presented to the mayor. So the total budget of the operating and capital together is the $34,356,640. And so this information summarizes the attached information to MDE 2026-0001, which is posted on the town website. If anyone would like to go there and see the full reports and the full line-by-line budgets, those are all there for the public and for anyone who'd like to see them. On the next slide, we're looking again at the operating revenue for 2026, which is $23,453,800. On the next slide, we have a tax levy and rate comparison. So we've taken the summary that we've used before. We're looking at what the 2025 levy was, which was $12,494,281 at the top. And the new 26 levy would be showing here at $13,460,726. So the increase in the levy we're seeing here is $966,445 subtotaled, which is a 7.73% increase. Below that, in the bottom half of the top box there, you see the breakdown of the levy between operating costs, capital reserve contributions, and operating reserve contributions, which makes up the same 7.73%. In the box at the bottom of this slide, what we're looking at is how this affects a tax bill for a MPAC assessed median value of a property in the town of Renfrew. MPAC has that established at $171,000 through their assessment system. So a tax bill for a property of that value in 2025 would have been listed there as $2,277.31. For 2026, we can project that out that it would be looking at $2,453.35. So what that means is an increase year over year for the year would be it's listed there on the screen, is $176.04. So if you were to break that down by the month, that becomes $14.67 a month increase. And if you were to break that down by the week, that becomes a $3.39 increase over the previous year. On the next slide, we're once again using our capital budget summary list, so it has all of the projects from Budget Committee through to the mayor. And what we've highlighted here are the 2 items in yellow, which were the last 2 added by the Budget Committee. The one is Mask O'Brien redevelopment options, and it's in yellow, second from the bottom. And the bottommost yellow highlighted on the summary list is the park redevelopment that came forward, and that was for an amount for $25,000, and both of those would be funded from reserves, which was the direction from the Budget Committee. In an update with the mayor's budget, we have the 3 things that are highlighted in blue. The first one at the top is the council services, which I already mentioned, for $7,000 to be coming from reserves. The second item is the sidewalk plow replacement, which is $10,000, which would also be coming from reserves. And the third one is the CIP review for $50,000, which would come from reserves. So the total here comes to $10,744,080 in capital items, which I referenced on a previous slide as the capital budget total for 2026. On the next screen, we look at the reserves that are projected. So we see the amount for reserves coming from 2024 to what was budgeted for 2025, and now would be budgeted for 2026. For 2026, the amount going into reserves would be $5.1 million. The amount coming out of reserves would be $6.1 million. So the projected year-end balance for the end of 2026 would be $12.8 million. On the next screen, we're showing the effects of borrowing, return limit, which, as we've seen in the previous presentations, there's $3.5 million for Monroe Avenue and $1.795 million for Harry Street Part 1, and how that will affect the annual repayment obligation of the town. At the bottom, it gives us a revised amount of $1,091,576. On the next screen, we have their updated debt listing showing both external and internal borrowing, and that is a slide we've seen before that we've put back into this presentation for the 2026 budget. Moving to the next slide, we have the water and wastewater for 2026. So for the water budget expenditures for 2026, we'd be looking at $4.5 million, as listed on the slide there. The wastewater budgeted expenditures would be $3.6 million. So to total those 2 together there, we see that would be the $8.135705 for 2026. And the chart at the bottom comes from our water wastewater financial plan, and that shows the average annual residential water and wastewater bill, and it shows it year by year. And if it's a little small on the screen, but if you were to bring that up on your computer, you can zoom in on that to see all those numbers clearly. And what it's showing us is that the percent increase on an annual bill for 2026 is 2.5%. And the increase from 2025 to 2026, based on these rates for the average residential water bill, is $32.24 for the year. So this information came from the Budget Committee to the mayor and to the mayor's proposed budget. I've listed those 4 changes, and all this information will also be posted on our website. And now I believe the clerk has the next portion of this.
Yeah, and I'll hand it over to the clerk for the next part. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and through you, Mayor. Just for the general public and for council who might be looking at me a little confused at the moment, on a procedural side of things, this agenda and tonight's agenda went forward. There was a planned mayoral budget update by me, which is the presentation I'm about to give. After the agenda release has happened, and after the mayor has reviewed the budget, he did release the MDE, so his mayoral decision yesterday, which was circulated to council and posted on our website. We took the opportunity while we had all this on our agenda, for him to present this publicly at the same time, just so that, again, the information is out there. It's out there to both council, the public, and so that there's a clear understanding of the budget that has been proposed. And I will now kind of walk you through the next steps and just kind of give the update on kind of the process going forward. Keep in mind, when I created these slide decks, I was not aware that we were having a budget proposed, so I'll kind of may have to make a few amendments on the way, but I think overall everybody kind of wants to know where we're at in the next stages. So as Treasurer Hodge has kind of noted, we've discussed the timeline of the budget. We are basically at the point where the budget is being proposed. The mayoral budget is being proposed. At this time, it was released yesterday that council now has 30 days to submit their amendments. The recommendation, the way that process works is council, having seen this information, debated this information, it's now your opportunity to take a look at the proposed budget, to decide whether there's any amendments you'd like to make, and put those amendments forward in a resolution in council. So that can be done at any of the regular council meetings or at a petition of a special meeting. After which time the amendments, any amendment is put forward, there will be 10 days for the mayor to consider those amendments, and should the mayor choose, there's a veto period. At which time, if a veto is issued, then it will go back to council, and council will have 15 days to override that veto. There is a process in which to do that, which of course I will help everybody through as if we were to proceed through those steps. A veto does require the veto does require 2/3 of council, and that's not the members in attendance of the meeting, but members in general. So, I am not on the right slide deck. Give me a second. I'm not sure what just happened here. I was wondering why I had that slide included. I'm going to try this one more time. This is what happens when the clerk is doing both presentation and AV at the same time. Okay, so you had the nice little time frame, which we got to go through again. So going back to the start of things, the strong mayor powers. So on May 1st, the Ontario Regulation 53-22 designated the town of Renfrew as a municipality with strong mayors. And now the town must now comply with the legislative changes and consider how those powers and duties are identified under Part 6 of the Municipal Act and how they affect the municipality. Under Section 284.1, under Section 284.16.1 of the Municipal Act, the mayor must prepare and propose the municipal budget for council's consideration on or before February 1st, which we've now done. So again, the legislative budget process. So the mayor presents the budget. Council has 30 days to make the amendment. The amendment period, as we've just discussed, any amendments made by council or done by a resolution at a meeting, the mayor may then vote and participate in those discussions throughout that entire process. Once the amendment has been put forward, the mayor may initiate a veto period. So after the 30 days, the mayor has 10 days to issue a written veto to the clerk, which is then circulated to the council and the public. If no veto is issued, the budget is adopted on day 11. If a veto is initiated, then council then has the override period, and that's 15 days to attempt an override, which requires 5 members, regardless of quorum at the meeting, to pass a resolution. So that's the 2/3 that we talked about. And then the final outcome is that if no override happens, then the original proposed budget is adopted on day 16. Okay. Budget committee, so kind of the origins of the requirement. So a mayoral decision was issued in July, and that was MDE-2025-006, which is available on the website, which established the budget committee and the terms of reference. A mayoral decision was amended the budget committee in October, providing the budget committee with more time. And there was a total of 7 budget committee meetings that were held, and that also included 1 public meeting that received feedback on the draft staff budget. the current status. So the Budget Committee had made recommendations and proposed changes to the 2026 draft staff budget, which were submitted to the Mayor on January 2nd, 2026. The Mayor reviewed the draft budget with the CAO, Treasurer, and Directors during the week of January 5th to 9th. And then I would add that MDE, so a mayoral decision, was issued on January 12th and circulated, as I said, to both council and the public. So the next steps, following the review, the proposed 2026 mayoral budget will be initiated, which has been done. We are now in the 30-day council amendment period, and it's up to council to decide whether they want to take the 30 days, whether they want to shorten that amendment period, which they have the right to do by passing a resolution, whether they want to host a public meeting, and if so, the public meeting is being proposed for January 27th at the next regular council meeting. And then following the statutory timelines for proposed amendments, vetoes, and overrides, all of these can be reduced by resolution of council. And when the period lapses, the budget is deemed adopted without the need of adopting bylaw. So that is a big change from kind of operations than before. We used to have to pass a budget to adopt used to have to pass a bylaw to adopt the budget. Now, once those periods have lapsed, the budget is automatically deemed adopted. And then once the budget has been adopted, or deemed adopted, I should say, a bylaw establishing the required tax rate levy to support that budget will need to be passed by council resolution. It's a lot of information. If there's any questions.
Councillor Legree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. Actually, my question is to the Mayor. With regard to the CIP review, can you please just give me the guidelines on that and why you feel it's important that we include it in this year's budget?
So when I met with the CAO and directors and stuff, it's to review it so that we can align ourselves better with housing. So basically, if we wanted to get aligned with the province and what they're looking for, if we do the review, it could open up options. Say somebody wanted to put an apartment in their basement, we might be able to help them, but we need to review it to see how that works and all of that stuff. But it's to line us up with the province so that we're ready to go should there be funding and all that stuff. So it's more of a housing, can we help, and how does that work type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll touch up on that one, and then I do have another question for you. With regard to the CIP review, it's $50,000, and I know it's not affecting the tax levy, but is that something that can we not do that internally? Are we talking about a third party coming in to assess it? So I'm asking, is there an option that we do it internally so that we don't have to spend the funds?
CAO.
Thank you. There might have been up until early December. So that's now, I might have been doing it, but I'm not able to do that at this time in my current capacity, my current role, so we would go out for that. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald, follow up.
Not a follow-up new question? Yeah, okay, thanks. We've heard about the plow and that there seems to be some complications with this. I want to touch up on the 4 updates that you've done. Can you provide your rationale with regard to the council devices for 7,000 that's been added? The rationale for why? And we've had normal conversations amongst ourselves. I'm just interested in your input now. And also why you removed the Robert Drive at 350,000. So if you can just elaborate on your rationale for that, please.
Including the plow?
No, I'm good with the plow.
Okay.
From what we've heard, it sounds like it's breaking down its cost of money. So just the other 2, please.
So as far as Robert Drive goes, we all know our roads are in desperate need of repair. I personally, as an elected representative, don't see how we could spend $345,000 on a road that's not a throughway. It's more of an entrance to parking lots for apartment buildings, and I don't think that doing that when it's not necessarily needed at this time, that money could be used to offset Harry next year or do a different road that is more in demand and in need. It's basically the entrance to a parking lot for people, and you can't drive through it. It's not, I don't even know how come we have it as a road, why the town has it. We don't really seem to know why we have it, but that was my rationale for that. And as far as for the electronics for the new incoming council, these are getting older. It's easier for staff to be able to provide council with new ones. They don't have to go swipe all these out. It's just more of a, I think it's better use of $7,000 to buy new ones than it would be to take the time and staff time and all that stuff to have to swipe all these, redo them, give them to council, and then what are the odds that halfway through term one starts to, you know, go out and stuff. So for $7,000, I thought, you know, council can start fresh with new computers, and it's easier on the staff to get that done, as far as it not having to take ours back and then get them ready to go for the next term. So that was my rationale for that. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll give my input with regard to, on your mayoral decision, it's number 3 at the first page. I'm in support of having another public meeting with regard to the budget. I don't know what you need from us, or is that just you're taking the temperature of the floor? What do you...
So basically, if you guys, so you can waive the wait period of the 30 days, and then that would be adopted tonight. If you don't, then it goes into a public meeting and all that stuff for over the 30 days. So the next public meeting would be our next council meeting on the 27th. Councillor Spolsky.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. I have a few things. Throughout the report, Treasurer Hodge mentioned what a weekly increase would be, monthly, etc., but the evaluation was at $177,000, and I know that MPAC has not done updates on existing homes. But if I could have someone clarify so I can finish the next step of the question, if someone were to build a new home in 2024, the impact rate would be a modern, up-to-date evaluation for that home. Is that a yes or a no? Can I get clarification, please?
Treasurer?
Thank you. So no, we keep up to date with our MPAC representative, and we have regular meetings with them, and that's the exact question that's been asked. And when they see a new home construction, they bring that in line with the 2016 base of their assessment that's been frozen all this time. So those updates will come into play with all of the reassessments when the province finally gives the green light for MPAC to start again. So there's not a disproportionate shift to a new home construction versus people who's had an assessment from 2016 assessment cycle.
Thank you, Mayor. I probably have a few here. So 177, I'm assuming it's some form of a median. What's the real numbers on a house that's at 500,000 in the town of Renfrew that has an MPAC assessment, 400,000, 500,000? There's a reason we're not growing in the town of Renfrew, and understandably at 177,000, we can make the numbers seem somewhat bubbly at a $4,000 a year tax increase, or not increase, but overall tax. There's a lot of households out there that are significantly higher than that, so I would like to hear a real number on what a higher valued house is in the town of Renfrew, and then I'll continue from there, if that takes a few minutes.
Sure.
Thank you. So when you have a moment, like we're going to make sure that the presentation I've given this evening is available on the website and available tied to this agenda, I believe, so everyone can see it. So when we go to this slide that's on page 7 of the presentation, not only did I provide the median assessed impact value of 171,000, the bottom part of the chart is per 100,000. The reason I did that as a round number is because if you quickly wanted to take that, it's a change of $1.98 per 100,000 of assessment. So if you had a $500,000 home, you could take that $1.98, just multiply it by 5, and that gives you the difference. So you could do that anywhere on the scale at that point. So if you had a $1 million home that you thought that's what impact were to assess it at, you could times that $1.98 by 10, and you'd get your $19.80 increase for the year.
Thank you. And
Per day, of course, for that amount. Like, to your point, the annual increase of 103, if you had a home that you thought was assessed at $1 million, then you would need to take that $102.95 and times it by 10. And so that can give you a quick calculation as to the expected increases.
Just for fun, Mayor, I don't have that up in front of me, but what would a valued $500,000 home pay annual taxes for a year with that rate, please? Just give me a number, if possible.
Yeah, so quick math on the chart is about 515, but we also have a more elaborate chart here that the Deputy Treasurer has pulled up on a screen that may even do a quick check on the very specifics of the tax rate.
Sorry, I know we're going back and forth. I don't necessarily want to know what the increase is. I want to know what the value of that particular tax assessment would be on a $500,000 home. What would be the annual tax cost for that homestead?
Oh, okay. Yes. So also on that chart, you'll have the amount per year per 100,000. So for 2026, it's $1,434.71 per 100,000 in assessment. $1,400 per 100,000. So if you times that by 5, you'd have you're like $7,000.
$7,000. Okay, thank you. It took a long time to get there. I apologize.
We can also look here at this other info, perhaps.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, that's only on the town portion. So there is the County of Renfrew portion on the tax bill as well as the education portion, so the school boards. So $7,100 is at $500,000 worth of assessment at the proposed tax rate is the town portion. In total, if the counties didn't change and the school boards didn't change from last year, it's $10,000 and change for a $500,000 assessed value. Just, can I provide one more piece of clarification with that? 171 is right from MPAC, from their database. That is their average residential household assessment. Just for clarification, sorry.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, if I could.
So I know, because we could be here all night. This is what that 30 days is for, because you guys are just getting all this information. So if you want to absorb it, have questions, hear the public meeting, and get staff to then answer the questions, because that's what that 30 days is for you, for council to get the information, take it home, absorb it, review it, look at it, hear what they've said, and then hear what the public says on the 27th. And then if there's other questions or anything like that, that's the time to do it.
Okay. Thank you. Can I just finish up, and then I'll certainly adhere. We're looking at a 7.73% increase. We talked about the CIP. I'm not in favor of increasing the CIP. I will say against that, because the input is for us to assist others potentially with growth, and I understand the reason for that. But at over a 30% increase since our time here, and we're handing more money out to help people build, with another 7.73% increase, I don't see the justification in it. So yeah, I'm not in favor of that guy at all, the extra money. So yeah, I'll be quiet.
Right. Any more questions? Councillor Degree?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So I believe the City of Pembroke just did a CIP review that was on YouTube or whatever, like the findings and everything. Can we not use that and save the $50,000?
Acting CEO?
Yeah, thank you. There is a process established under the Planning Act that you have to go through in order to establish a CIP. You may want to look at things like the program boundaries. So part of the exercise is actually defining what parts of town are eligible for what programs. So the programs themselves, you might be able to cut and paste, but the actual, I'd say, a significant amount of the actual program requires the application to the town of Renfrew, and there is a statutory process that you do have to go through. So unfortunately, no. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I get why we want to do it, but Councillor Sapolsky, just his little scenario there, that's a lot of money for households in town of Renfrew, so yeah, we have to take a look at that. Thanks.
Clerk? Clerk has something she wants to say.
Through you, Mayor. And again, if council, just to kind of I guess, clarify kind of this next stage, what council's going through. So the 30-day amendment period, which is a great time for council to take a look at what the proposed budget is and put forward, as I said, a resolution to council. So amendments, it would be in the best interest to have all amendments put forward as a one-time, these are the list of our different amendments. This is done as a resolution at council, and as I said, it would be conducted at a regular meeting in council, or unless you petition for a special meeting. As any resolution at council, in this case, it would pass by the majority. So in this case, it would, your amendments and your discussion would happen. If the majority of council wants to do one item or not another item, right, that'll all be voted on. So there'll be opportunities for each council member to express themselves and express the items that they're in support of or not in support of. But just know that is available to you as council over the next 30 days, and certainly part of the public meeting is once again to hear public input and to bring that information back and to make it part of your consideration. I would believe that at the meeting on the 27th there would be a public meeting component, but then also we would have a place on the agenda for that open discussion to happen at council during the committee, the whole portion of it, so it allows a little bit less formality, and so we can have kind of that open discussion, and then what council decides is a motion forward for what amendments they would like as one would move forward.
Any other questions on this? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, and to you, Mayor. So I'm in favor of the, I think you said January 27th, having an open meeting with regard to this, and I understand what you said, Clerk, and I appreciate that. But do you need a motion for that, or is it just okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Vivimo.
The amendment period, does that open up the whole budget that council can then go back through and cherry pick things out if they get face pressure from their neighbors or something?
Clerk?
Through you, Mayor. Technically, yes. The amendment period is based on the proposed budget. I would the fact that the mayor had engaged a budget committee meeting from early on to allow lots of council input throughout the whole initiation of the draft staff budget. I would be surprised if all of a sudden this new budget was, or this proposed budget, which only had 4 changes from what the budget committee had proposed, would then get opened up and torn through. But technically, council has the option to propose any amendments to the proposed budget that they see, or that they, as a whole, agree to.
Review?
It's just that we had, when we went through one of the meetings, we went through 7 or 8 different points and voted on them individually, and there was some that voted no and some voted yes. So it wasn't always unanimous. So that's all I was asking about, was some of those other things that had been previously discussed, if they're pulled up. And I'm fine with that if it is, but it's just to make sure people understand.
Clerk?
To Reeves' point, and he's absolutely correct, those were done at a budget committee meeting, so the true authority lies within council. Anything that was a resolution at council, and some items that were put into the capital were actually a resolution at council, those would not be without doing a reconsideration. So it would only be the minor budget committee discussions.
Any other questions? Councillor McWhorter.
Through you, Mayor. So if we had an open house meeting to discuss the budget or get input from the public on the 27th, we would be limited to the changes proposed by yourself? Because if you're saying nothing else can be looked at, then what would be the point other than just limiting it to that? I understand Reeves' point, but if you're going to have an open budget discussion with the town people, is there, like, where does the limit come from? If we're going to stay with just what's been proposed by yourself, that limits to people what they can talk about or ask or inquire.
CAO?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sidney. So council has 30 days to review the budget that's been proposed by the mayor. That takes us beyond the February 10th regular meeting. So I think the idea would be having the public meeting on January 27th gives council a couple of weeks to consider the feedback and then come forward with whatever amendments you'd like to make to the budget that's been proposed, operating and capital. And at that point, the mayor then has a period of time to veto any of those amendments. If council overwhelmingly supports the amendments, that council can override on a 2/3 majority subsequent to that veto. So you would need 5 councillors in favor. It's all of 2/3 of the whole of council, not just those in attendance at a particular meeting. So you need 5 affirmative votes to override a veto. But that's kind of the process. So you got 30 days, takes you to February 10th. We kind of scheduled or tried to time the mayoral decision such that it took you past that date so that you had 2017 didn't have to rush to come up with some amendments at that meeting. You had the 10th then to come forward with anything you'd like changed. Does that help?
Councilor McWhorter.
So just to be clear, so if we have a town meeting, town people can come, and it's not just limited to the changes that the mayor had. So I just wanted to confirm that, to make a point of that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, so we can move on to announcements and community events. First off, I want to welcome everybody back to Town Council following the holiday break. I hope everybody had the opportunity to enjoy well-deserved time off and get the chance to reconnect with family and friends. I think we're pleased to get back and get back to work on behalf of our community. New Year's Eve took place once again on New Year's Eve at the MyFM Center. It was another successful event. Thank you to all the families who came out and enjoyed the event. It was a packed morning filled with public skating, face painting, Lego, crafts, magician, breakfast followed by pizza lunch. We hope everybody had a wonderful time ringing in the new year with us. Just a reminder that the changes to the recycle program are now underway in the town of Renfrew. Local businesses should have received direct communications from the town, the BIA, and the Chamber of Commerce outlining these changes. If you are a business and have not received this information or still have questions, please visit renfrew.ca where full details are available, or contact manager Amanda Springer directly. For residents, Circular Material Ontario has assumed responsibility for residential recycling through a local contractor, Miller Waste Systems. For most residents, there are very few changes to the program aside from some additional items that can now be recycled. If you have questions about residential recycling, please contact Miller Waste Systems directly. Additional information is available on renfrew.ca, with printed information sheets also available at Town Hall and the MyFM Center. Residents should also have received information included with their most recent water bill. And lastly, we invite you to join our upcoming online public information center to learn more about the Master Service Plan project, ask our team questions, and provide feedback, listen to and learn from Indigenous nations and organizations, residents, businesses, government agencies, and interested groups is part of the process. The Public Information Center materials to be hosted on the study website and made available January 26th to February 9th, 2026. The Public Information Center virtual project team member availability to be provided on the study website will be offered on February 10th, 2026 from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Are there any other announcements? Councillor Gray?
Through you, Mayor Sidney. Not an announcement, but I think we need to jump backwards and clarify something. I sent a text to the deputy clerk here to see if he had a problem going back to the financial statements. I believe Councillor Sapolsky's question about this $2 million deficit, it leaves the viewers watching on YouTube to believe that we actually have a $2 million deficit, which is not the case. So I think we need to clear that up before we move on, because the viewers are going to leave tonight thinking that's the case, and it's not. I did text the Deputy Treasurer, so I don't put him on the spot to see if he could explain it, to us better.
So we need a motion to suspend the rules.
I think it needs to be done.
Okay, so
Yeah.
mover, seconder, review. All in favor? All right, suspend the rules. Deputy Treasurer?
No, you're good. Thank you, Council. Yeah, during the presentation, there was a question that was asked that I myself also was like, I'm not sure if that's what is appropriately reflected. So just, I believe, and I'll allow Councillor Sobalski to correct me if I'm wrong, it was to do with the $2 million shortfall. What that's referring to is essentially a non-cash transaction. So when you go through that consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus, it includes cash transactions, so anything where you've paid for an invoice or received money from an agency or a user, as well as items like amortization and unfunded liabilities. Amortization is you bought a piece of equipment, it amortizes over 10 years. We have to show the journal entry on our financial statements. This number down here in the $2,269,000 is inclusive of the unfunded liabilities. So on an annual basis, we do an annual non-cash journal entry transaction to show that, you know, in 50 years from now, the landfill is going to cost this to close, and these will be the post-closure costs. These are all non-cash transactions. They're reflected in these statements. So when we do budgeting, budget is always net zero, where our revenues cover our expenses across water, sewer, and general operations. The statements are reflective of non-cash as well. So just for clarity, our budgets are balanced. The statements reflect and include unfunded liabilities in the budget columns so that they can appropriately move through overs and surpluses and items such as that. I do have the dollar values of the operating surpluses, which would be reflective of cash surpluses or cash deficits. I have those on hand if council would accept them. They are part of our journal entries for year end. What we do with those is through each fund, water, sewer, and general, we actually move these into reserves, and then council can so choose to fund work out of these on future dates. So I feel like it would be beneficial to everyone if I read to you what the surpluses are rather than hear that there's a $2 million deficit. Also on that same statement, it was shown that there's a $7 million surplus. Again, that's because work was financed and then items that we paid for were capitalized. So their expenses disappear from our books, for lack of better terms, and then the expense comes in for the amortization. So that's a long-winded way to get to, let me read you the actual surpluses. So for our water fund in cash terms, $519,000 and some change. In our sewer reserves, the contribution in, so a surplus, is $156,000. And for our general fund, our operating surplus is $1,024,000. So it's not a $2 million deficit. That's just for financial statement purposes to reflect the unfunded and non-cash stuff in that budget column.
Councillor agree?
Thank you, Deputy Treasurer. I just didn't want anybody going off YouTube thinking we've overspent by $2 million, so that clarifies it. Thank you.
Oh.
Yes, thank you. I was in the process of writing a long-winded notice of motion to present just to try and get that straightened out, so I'm glad we went backwards.
Deputy Treasurer?
And if the treasurer also pulled up 2023's financial statements, and the same line item that caused a bit of that needs some clarification is $2.4 million for budget purposes, for financial statement purposes of a shortfall. Again, that's just for groupings and items such as that and statement purposes. It's not actually reflective of cash transactions and operating transactions.
Thank you. Are we good? All right. We will carry on to the Committee of the Whole. That Renfrew Town Council convene as Committee of the Whole to consider reports for recommendations to Council. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Legree. All in favor? We are now in Committee of the Whole. Moving on to landfill inspection report. That the Committee of the Whole received the 2025 MECP landfill inspection report as information. Mover, please, Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Legree, and I'll turn it over to Manager Springer.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, also known as the MECP, conducts inspections at the Renfrew landfill site typically every 2 years. The last inspection was conducted in August of 2023, and a site visit was conducted last September, but no inspection report was issued. The MECP was on site on November 27th, 2025, to conduct an inspection that is related to this report. The household hazardous waste depot was also inspected during this time. The MECP's inspection report identifies 2 non-compliance issues, the first of which is waste not being adequately compacted, and this refers to the area of the steep waste slopes at the back of the site. And the second non-compliance was inadequate daily cover being placed at the end of each working day. This refers to the active phase as well as the area of steep waste slopes. The non-compliance issues are the same or similar to those identified in the 2023 inspection report, and they highlight the need for capital investment and operational changes in order for the landfill site to remain compliant. The ECA amendment application that is referenced in corrective action number 1 as a action item has already been submitted to the MECP back in July and is undergoing review. Management staff will continue to evaluate operations to address the issues with daily cover, which has been a long-standing operational issues. We've already taken steps to address this non-compliance. That's non-compliance number 2, including the hiring of additional staff, which is shared with Public Works as was approved as part of last year's budget. And we've also trialed a seeding program this past year to establish vegetative cover on areas of intermediate cover to reduce the cover material erosions. And we will need to find efficiencies for moving cover material around the site in order to fully be able to address these non-compliance issues. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you to the manager. On page 2 of your report, the non-compliance issues appear to be the same identified in 2023 that you mentioned. And it highlights the need for capital investment operational, which you've said we've met some of that challenges right now. But what are the consequences for these non-compliance issues? Like fines, that sort of thing is what I'm kind of...
Through you, Mayor. I have been aware of other landfills that have received fines for long-standing non-compliance issues, possibility of orders against us. Right now, non-compliance issues, they are things that we do need to do, but eventually they will lead to an order, which means like I do it now, doesn't matter what the cost is. So it's not likely that we will get there.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to Finance and Corporate Services, E.3.1, Annual Temporary Borrowing Bylaw. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council authorize the borrowing of money from time to time to meet current operating and capital expenditures for the year of 2026, and further that the bylaw be brought forward to the January 27th Council meeting for adoption. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, seconded by Councillor McWhorter, and I'll turn it over to our Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So this is an annual bylaw. It's done at the beginning of each year, and this report is being presented prior to the January 27th meeting. This bylaw will allow for short-term borrowing to manage cash flow if needed, and it's done the same annually. It's done at the beginning of each year, and it's done as prescribed under the Municipal Act. And so this report is noting that this bylaw would be brought to the council meeting on January 27th.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Interim tax levy. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council approve the establishment of an interim tax levy and the authorization of the payment of taxes, as well as penalty and interest charges for the non-payment of taxes or any installment by the due date, and to bring forward a bylaw for the January 27th Council meeting for adoption. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, seconded by Rivimo. I'll turn it back over to the Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. So this is another annual bylaw, so similar to the previous report that was being presented prior to the January 27th meeting. And this one is for doing an interim tax billing, which would be 50% of the final taxes for 2025 to property owners. This process is carried out each year, and it's the first of the 2 tax billings that would occur. And then also on January 27th, the bylaw for this would be brought to council.
Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. The Renfrew Council rise from the Committee of the Whole. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Legree. All in favor? We are now out of Committee of the Whole, and we can take a 5-minute recess should anybody need to stretch their legs. Welcome back, everybody. We will continue on F.1, Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes, September 9th, 2025. Councillor Sobalski, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Not much. Meetings are old. The reason it took so long is the fact that we do hold our Economic Development Advisory meetings on the same day as council, so therefore the process to get meeting minutes adopted and turned over in our meetings takes time, and especially in this particular case, it was we did miss a few meetings in a row, just the circumstances of chair and others. There's no real direct content. The meetings going forward, as these meeting minutes come forward, we're starting to focus in on a few goalposts. They're still in quicksand, but we're trying to catch them, but working towards a couple of good items. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to South Ottawa Valley OPP Detachment Board meeting minutes of August 29th, October 29th, and December 3rd, 2025. Councillor Degree, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yeah, I'll just quickly touch on a few things. So the minutes attached are for August, October, and December. I know August and October is a little while ago. We're missing an admin person, so we've been kind of struggling just to keep up. But going forward, we should have everything on track. And I'll just highlight a couple of things from these meetings. So as you know, the town of Renfrew and the board has signed an agreement for the town to be the paymaster or look after the finances for the board. The board, along with Chief Superintendent Wilhelm and Superintendent Needham, sat on the interview panel for the new inspector for Renfrew. There was 3 applications, 2 withdrew within the last little bit. So there was only 1 application from Marianne McNeil, who was selected as the new commander for the Renfrew detachment. And then our meeting in December, there was elections for board chair and vice chair. And John Proctor was selected as the new chair, and Rob Tripp was selected as vice chair. So both took effect on January 1st, 2026. Also attached with the minutes is the detachment commander's report for November 2025, which will give council a high-level view of the calls compared to prior. So, is there any questions? I can take them. Thanks.
Any questions? Hearing none. All right, moving on to correspondence. Oh, no, sorry. Moving on to G1, Renfrew Area Health Service Village. That Renfrew Town Council approve a final contribution of $36,000 to the Renfrew Area Health Service Village, and that staff be directed to determine the appropriate funding source and process the payment upon receipt of documentation from the Renfrew Area Health Service Village, Inc., RAHSV. Mover, please. Councillor Anderdick, second by Councillor Legree. Revimo, do you have something?
Thank you very much. I've been involved in this since 2010. It was formed 4 municipalities, Greater Madawaska, Edmundston, Bromley, Horton, and ourselves. In 2010, we were all, at the time, the 4 mayors were called into the hospital by the chair of the day, as well as Randy Penny, and told us that they were getting out of recruiting doctors. It wasn't a primary need for the hospital. And that secondly, the community desperately needed 14 doctors. So we put together a plan. It was $2.1 million, and it was to end last year, to recruit 14 doctors. We were also going to do economic development around the Renfrew Area Health Services Village community. We identified that as a potential growth area, had an economic study completed on it as well. At that time, we recognized that our community was short. Our 7,000 residents in our community did not have a doctor at the time between the 4 communities. If you scroll through it, one of the significant problems was that Renfrew Industrial Commission initially was going to fund $1.2 million of this program. They recognized the benefit to their community, meaning the business and manufacturing community. we were only involved with them for about a year, and they came back and said, no, they weren't going to fund any. But in in conversation with them, they agreed that they would fund $900,000 instead. So we changed our budget, which still we were going to be successful. Then they pulled all of their funding. So instead of 1.2 million, they delivered 480,000. We also were in the process of doing fundraising, and we had targeted 700,000. However, we made a decision not to hire a professional fundraiser at the time after we'd raised 280,000, because it would have been in direct competition to the Renfrew Victoria Hospital Foundation, as well as the hospice, because they were both fairly actively recruiting funds in the area, and we didn't feel that we wanted to compete with them, nor did we want to be seen to be taking valuable dollars, especially from the hospice, because they need fundraising to survive. So we decided not to do that. In the end, what has happened is we did recruit the 14 doctors, and we utilized the $510,000 line of credit, which the town of Renfrew administered for us. And as it stands now, if you look at our closeout budget, we need approximately $114,000 to wrap this up. You'll note the balance, or the largest line is the line of credit balance, which is $96,845, which is owed to the town of Renfrew. So I would not want to be in the unpleasant space of, as chair, asking a lawyer to sue the town of Renfrew so we pay the town of Renfrew. Just thought I'd make that known. So we have been granted the $36,000 from Horton. I just had an email from them about 5 minutes ago. Admiston Bromley has paid $25,000 as an emergency amount, and are going back for their $11,000 to make it $36,000. Greater Madawaska, we're not sure where they are. And that may take some sustained effort. But if you look at the Renfrew Area Health Services Village Inc. financing agreement, and if you look on point down the bottom, therefore, the municipalities agreed to guarantee in a fair and equitable manner the $2.1 million cost to fund the program and to recruit a total of 14 doctors through to the completion and until all debt is paid by agreeing as follows. And you look down items 1, 2, 3, and it's dated on the 22nd day of February. All the mayors have signed it, and there was a bylaw that went along with that as well. So what I can tell, and if you look at Schedule A, Appendix A, it talks about initially $25,000. So I was the architect of this program, and what I did was added in a 2% escalator all the way through until the end, because that way municipal governments, but not all, sometimes don't recognize growth, and keep the, if you kept it at $25,000, it would have been a significant impact for the program. So having said all of that, what we did was we managed to bring the program in, but with the losses, we lost about $800,000 in funding along the way from the other bodies, and so we have to wrap this up. So we've laid off the one employee. She was only working 20 hours a week. We've wrapped up all of our debts to the best of our abilities at this point, and this is the budget that we're presenting to you.
Any Councillor Legree?
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I guess to read email. So a clarification question first, and that question, if that's okay. Yeah. I just missed it. The Township of Horton agreed to pay the $36,000, you said?
Yes, they have. I just got the email about 10 minutes ago. Okay,
so currently, no matter what this council says or does, we're on the hook for the 114 or the 96,845.12. Is that right?
Well, if the rest of the partners don't pay up, then, for instance, you'd be on the hook for a portion of it. So for the sake of argument, if
The 96,845.12 minus the 36,000 that Horton just agreed to.
right.
Right?
Right, and then there's some of the closing, like legal and accounting. The payroll is all completed now. And the the line of credit interest has been accruing, I believe, since October. So it's October, November, December at approximately $1,500.
And, sorry, so my question is, when did the recruitment for the doctors actually stop?
3 years ago, when we had 14.
But payroll just ended in October?
Yeah.
So for 3 years, you didn't do anything, but you paid payroll?
No, that's not quite true. We did do something. What we were doing was referring people to doctors, also to Health Ontario, the doctor line, as well as there was some fundraising. We sold some calendars to bring some funds in. We also assisted with some of the locum duties when the hospital is bringing in doctors to replace doctors on holidays or paternity and maternity leave. So we were doing things, yes.
Okay, I'll let somebody else. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Andrew Dick?
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. And just so I understand what's going on here with the money and stuff like that, but when we've had some issues in the news with what happened at the hospital and Renfrew Health, can we just, Mayor Sidney, maybe have Revimo just explain to the public, they're asking for money, and I just want to make sure the public understands that this is not the same as what has happened. It's just a touchy subject. People might say, oh, you're giving them $36,000. Well, didn't they, Can we just have some clarification that this has nothing to do with what happened at the hospital?
No, we are Renfrew Area Health Services Village. And that was Renfrew Health. They're two entirely separate corporations. My knowledge of Renfrew Health started in 2014 when I'd heard they'd formed something. At that point, we couldn't get a handle on who they were and what they were doing. So made a Freedom of Information inquiry to the federal government and the provincial government, and started looking at their reports to the federal government. And we then asked if they were interested in joining in recruiting to finish up the program and start Renfrew Area Health Services 2.0, which would be the 20 other doctors that were needed at that time. They said no. About a year and a half ago, I got invited to a meeting where Renfrew Health suddenly surfaced and said, yeah, we're interested, but we really want to know who talked to the ministry and sicked them on us, in essence. And I assured them it wasn't me. And then asked if they would provide some information, because they'd already recruited 2 doctors, and so that we could talk about going forward. And never heard from them again. So that's the extent of the contact. There was no exchange of funding with Renfrew Health. There was an agreement with Renfrew Victoria Hospital where we paid $25,000 a year for a recruiter as an interim measure, which lasted, I think, about 4 years. And then we withdrew from that as well once the 14 doctors were in place. So no direct financial transactions with Renfrew Health. The financial transactions with Renfrew Victoria Hospital were 4 years of payments of $25,000 each. They had a full-time employee who they paid much more than that, but that allowed us to access an employee for recruitment duties, going to doctor recruiting fairs across Eastern Ontario and things like that.
Perfect. Any other questions? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you and to the Reeve. Initially, with the Renfrew Industrial Commission, it looks like they, from the literature you gave, and thank you, there's a lot here, it was basically almost a $1.3 million, and it went down to $900,000. In the agreement, we have it specified at $900,000. was there, obviously there's a bit of a situation that takes place, but initially they had the 1.6, we go down to 900 in the agreement with all the townships in the town here. Responsible for the, what's left over? What's left over?
It's a corporation. It's a not-for-profit corporation, and the 4 municipalities own 25% of each. They each own 25%. So the corporation itself is responsible, but it flows down to the owners, which is the 4 municipalities. So for instance, if somebody doesn't pay up, then the board has to have a conversation about whether or not, we ask them to enforce their own bylaw, which is in essence they would cover the debt. And if they don't, then you take the agreement and I guess you'd end up in court and try and collect. Sorry.
No, you mentioned lawsuits earlier. It'd be an awkward position to come against the town here, and I understand that, Reeve. Are there any financial statements? Because there's a lot of losses here, and there's a lot of things that take place. I get that. Are there any financial statements, and has it ever been audited?
Every year there's a financial statement completed by Ferguson and Kubishevsky, and so the town should have copies of those right from 2010.
Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, to you. Do we have those copies? And I know I'm putting people on the spot, and I don't mean to, but no, and it's just, I mean, this is
so they're
financial information.
I'm sure they'll look for them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Gray.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So I'm not trying to be hard on this. I'm upset. I'm disappointed that 3 years in the council, this is just coming to us now. Unless I missed something somewhere, maybe I did, but this is kind of news to me. And I can see this being a taxpayer's hit at the end of it, whether we have to hire legal to go after other municipalities. Still, at the end of the day, it's a cost to the ratepayers. So in 2015, there is a funding gap, because that's when you went and got the lock with the town of Renfrew. So how do we end up, I still don't understand how we end up with over $114,000. Like, how do we overspend? Not we, I wasn't part of it, but how did you overspend by that? Like, I don't buy groceries till I get my paycheck into my account, so I don't understand how we ended up at 100 and, if you could just please explain that piece for me.
The original financial plan, and that's why we got the line of credit, was to pay, we paid the doctors up front, and they performed their 5 years of service. So there was a whole whack of them. So it wasn't spaced out. There was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and sometimes 3 or 4 in a year. So we needed the line of credit to do that, and it was all predicated on the funding coming in and to making it till the end of to making it until last year. So the program was to net out last year at 0, but because of the losses, as much as we pared it back, and there was some other things that we had to do as well, but it still went over. And to your first point, you did hear about this. We had a closed meeting when we invited the 4 municipalities into the room, and I made a presentation. Yeah, so myself and then Mayor Donahue filled in on it as well. He was sitting over in that area somewhere, because I was sitting up here. That's all.
Yep.
Thank you. So I guess my thought is on it, I would like to see this pushed off until Treasury can bring us back to financial statements to look at them, because we don't even know. Like, you're asking for 36,000 now, but at the end of the day, if Greater Madawaska and Admaston don't pay their share, then we have to pay more, because that money is there. So we don't even, like, I don't follow that piece. Like, you're going to ask for 36 now, and then Greater Mad and Admaston don't pay, so now there's another 47,000 missing. That's technically on the hook for the town, and Treasury can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's our lock, right? So we're on the hook for that, so then it has to come back to council. Am I correct, or am I misled? Not following.
So I'll go first. If that's the case, as I said, I would call the board together and then pursue actions to retrieve the funding.
Yeah, for me, I'd like to see what the other municipalities do and see what the total is before I make a decision. So that's just my opinion on it. And I don't know if, am I right by what I'm saying with the lock? I'd like Treasury just in case I'm wrong.
By the sounds of it at this moment, yeah. I'd like to pull I was trying to find it while we were discussing the actual line of credit document, but that would be something we'd be able to provide more context to once I actually grab the line of credit agreements and document.
Okay, so I know that at the end of the day, this is going to come on us anyway, but I'd like to get that information first, so that's my thoughts. Thanks.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. And Reeve, I understand you're representing the board. This doesn't fall on you. It's decisions or directions that was taken by the board. I get that. Clarification, and Mayor, through you to the Reeve, I guess. So should some of the townships not pursue it, and this is to touch up on what Councillor Legree stated, it wouldn't be the town of Renfrew suing anyone, it would be the corporation. Does that make sense?
Yes, that would be my recommendation to the board. And we have, as a board, pursued legal action against other people when contracts haven't been fulfilled. So it's not new.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. And Reeve, if you're able to, so on Appendix A, we go down to 2024, and obviously we've gone through 2025, and I'm just curious, is a rationale as to why this wasn't closed up or tidied up at the end of 2024? If you're able to comment on that.
Yes, we were still waiting for a dispute to be resolved with one of the doctors who hadn't quite filled the final terms of their involvement. So we resolved that. There was another doctor who we were worried was going to be doing something similar, so we were trying to get that tidied up, and then we ran face planted into the issue with Horton as they were sorting out what was going on with their mayor, because the bylaw number 1 says the 4 mayors have to sit on the board and no substitutions. So we didn't have, we weren't able to get quorum. So a lot of the board, so at that time there was no money being spent short of the usual disbursements for insurance and website, things like that.
Councillor Anderdick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. So this whole thing, and I hear where my fellow councillors are coming from, but this whole thing, we owe some money. The town of Renfrew, the Renfrew Hospital, we have doctors because of this program now. Is that correct, Mayor Sidney?
That is correct.
Okay. So I hear what Councillor Green and Councillor McDonald are saying. So bottom line is, if the Township of Admaston and the Greater Madawaska, they don't pay their fair share, they're going to have egg on their face, because we got the Renfrew Hospital got doctors because of this program. Would that be a fair statement?
Reeve, you can handle that one better.
Yes, most of the doctors worked either emerge or on call at Renfrew Victoria Hospital. Some also worked at hospice. Some also served the long-term care sector as well. So they started off as family practitioners, but what was attractive for them here was the hospital and the services that went with it. So they weren't just being family practitioners. They could do some other things and build up I don't know if I'd call it a subspecialty, but a special set of skills that they wanted to do. So that allowed them to do that. So, and the interesting thing is, Admaston Bromley is not likely to be an issue because they've already advanced us $25,000. So because initially we weren't sure what the final numbers were going to be. We were trying to get a sense from legal how much it would cost to wrap up a few things. So Admaston Bromley is not likely an issue. Greater Madawaska, their involvement was to issue the tax receipts when people made the made a donation. So if I made a donation of $100, I'd write to the Township of Greater Madawaska, and then on the memo line, Physician Recruiting or Renfrew Area Health Services Village. Then they would forward the money in a clump to us at some point during the year, issue the tax receipts, we would send a letter out. So we have a good relationship with them. I'm just not sure where they are right now. They asked some questions. We've sent back some information. Now they've asked more questions, so we're sending back more information. So I'm not suggesting anything beyond that. I don't foresee any issues. Same thing, they were feeling that they hadn't got the, the financial information. I spoke to their former mayor. He assured me that he had left it there. I spoke to their two of their former staff. They said, yes, I remember putting the stuff in the file. It's still there. So we've also filled in some of that stuff for them, given them as information as they've requested it. So, yeah.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, to the Reeve. Ultimately, there's a legal document that we're responsible for and that we need to look after. My only concern at this point is that we're not going to be held liable for if for some reason a township decides not to pay their fair share. But from what you state, that'll be looked after from the board perspective. Am I correct on that?
An attempt will be made by the board, yes.
Thank you.
Because you can't guarantee results. Yeah.
Any other questions? Councillor Legree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. But just for clarification, the lock is in our name. So it doesn't matter what the board does. At the end of the day, the town of Renfrew, the taxpayers are responsible for whatever money is not paid. Like, we keep going back to the board. Does the board still sit? Like, do you still sit? Like,
Yeah, we sat 3 weeks ago.
okay.
Yeah, to approve the letter and approve the final budget. And approve laying off the employee.
And to get legal and stuff, well, we're already in a deficit here. It's going to add more to this. Who's on the hook for that? You used to have no money to pay this now, but you're going to hire, the board's going to hire lawyers to fight it? I don't understand this that just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's going to come back on the town of Renfrew and the ratepayers. Like, there's no other way around it.
The original document, oh yes, it will.
100%.
As it will to the other municipalities.
Correct.
Yeah.
Wow. No, because did they sign the lock too?
Yeah. There is a document, there is an agreement between the municipalities, and then you also look at the other one, the bylaws that's passed that talks about a fair and equitable manner and handle all debts. Yes.
Deputy Treasurer?
Just for, I would like to review them in full before I put my foot in my mouth, but I have found 3 guarantee debts from the adjacent municipalities with the Renfrew Area Health Service Village, and it does speak specifically to the locks and 25%, as the Reeve had mentioned before. I do want to review them before saying, yeah, it's all good, kind of proceed, but I did find some guarantees. I think we have to review those before, anyway, yeah.
If I could add, I was the mayor of an adjoining municipality. I wanted to treat everybody fairly, and I wanted to guarantee the town of Renfrew wasn't going to be left holding the bag at the end of the day should something happen. So I wrote them specifically to be as fair as I could be. And it was sorry, John, it went through a lawyer as well, and they tidied up my language and sent the information forward.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. And to that point, Reeve, because I've gone through the financing agreement, and that's what one of my concerns is that Renfrew's going to be on the hook, and I don't see that. In Section 2, it talks about, the only place I see Renfrew specified is that we will administer the line of credit. Not that we're responsible for it. Ultimately, it's in our name. Yeah. I get that. But it seems from all the rest of the literature to be shared equally. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of this? It's information. Hmm?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Can we
Yep. That Renfrew Town Council approve a final contribution of $36,000 to the Renfrew Area Health Service Village, and that staff be directed to determine the appropriate funding source and process the payment upon receipt of documentation from Renfrew Health Services Village, Inc., RAHSV. So we are in a council meeting, so this is a motion to finalize the $36,000. Councillor Degree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So until we get some more information, I'm not in support of this, and I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. To that point, can we table it to the next meeting and to get the information?
Speaking as the chair, yes, of Renfrew Area Health Services Village, it's not critical that a decision be made tonight.
So I would need a motion to table, to defer. Councillor McDonald? Till when? Before we,
So the next meeting of council?
the next meeting of council?
Thank you, Mayor. We're doing a lot of head language here. Yes, to the next meeting, if we can table it, and that gives time for finance to come back with the, thank you.
Does that give you enough time with budgets and stuff? Yeah.
Through you, Mayor, so just so I'm clear that the discussion is deferred until financial statements for, is there a set time period for that you want financial statements, or all financial statements, or last 5 years? Financial statements available?
So, Mayor, through you, I'll answer that. With the finance department, would it be troublesome to get the last 5 years? If we've got control of it right now, it's just a matter of finding it and producing it. Am I correct?
Yeah.
I guess that's a two-part question. If it's locating them on the server, if we can't locate them on the server, or we're having trouble locating them on the server, we can also reach out to the Reeve, or we can also reach out probably to F&K to get that information as well.
So mover, Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Degree. All in favor to defer? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Correspondence, items for information. Is there any questions about those two correspondence? You can read. If you do, you can talk to staff after. That Renfrew Town Council confirmed the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on December 9th, 2025, the special meeting of council held on December 9th and December 16th, 2025, and the closed meeting minutes of December 9th and December 16th, 2025, understanding that they remain confidential. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McWhirter. All in favor? That's carried. There's no matters arising.
Yes.
Oh, wait, sorry. Yes, there is. That Renfrew Town Council adopt the final resolution considered in Committee of the Whole on December 9, 2025. One, that Renfrew Town Council approve the updated fence bylaw, and the staff be directed to bring forward the appropriate bylaw for adoption. Mover, please. Councillor Degree, seconded by Councillor McWhirter. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to bylaws. That the bylaw listed on the agenda of January 13, 2026 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Mover, please. Councillor McWhirter, second by Councillor McDonald. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Motions of which notice was previously given. L.1, Councillor McDonald, identify reimbursement framework for legal advice. And the motion is that Renfrew Town Council direct staff to investigate options for establishing a formal mechanism such as a designated budget line, reserve, or reimbursement framework that would allow councillors to access municipal funds for legal advice or representation when they are being subject to the Integrity Commissioner investigation, provided the matter relates to the councillor's official duties. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McWhirter. Councillor McDonald, do you have anything you need to add?
Thank you. Just to note, several municipalities throughout Ontario currently have this type of solution. The reality is council members should have some support during these type of situations when they present. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. So we're voting, so I just need a little more clarification. Are we voting on this, or are we voting for staff to bring back we're voting to bring staff to bring back a report on this? Okay, thank you.
We're just directing staff.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to L.2, Councillor McDonald, legal opinion. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to obtain a legal opinion from a municipal governance lawyer specialist not affiliated with the town of Renfrew to review the proceedings of the special council meeting of December 2nd, 2025, specifically determine whether Section 4.11 of the Town of Renfrew's procedural bylaw and the applicable provisions of Robert's Rules of Order were properly followed, and whether any relevant procedural requirements were breached, and that the legal opinion be brought back to council for consideration. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McWhorter. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I'd like to table this motion until Tuesday, the 24th of February, 2026 for now. I'm currently exploring another option that might be more appropriate and cost-effective. So if that's okay with council, I'd like to table it till that date.
Table it to the 27th?
Yes, 24th of February. Table it to the
24th of February, sorry.
24th of February, 2026.
So I need a motion from you to defer till February 24th. Seconder? Councillor Legree, any discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. Any notice of motion? Councillor Sabowski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Bring forward a notice of motion for the next regular council meeting, January 27th, in regard to the water meter replacement program.
Duly noted. Any other notices of motion? Revimo?
Be worded something like this, respecting the process now for the budget, which is the strong mayor and some of the uncertainty about it, and the inability, I think people have expressed it, to assist in setting some of the priorities or setting some of the guardrails, I guess, for next year's budget, because right now we're done with budgeting as soon as this was complete. So trying to suggest a way around to assist, not around, I shouldn't say that, I'm sorry. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to research and consult in developing a long-term financial response plan, which will review the 2026 operating budget of the Town of Renfrew with a view to recommending all relevant reductions, including but not limited to implementing shared services with other public sector partners, reductions in levels of service for municipal divisional services, reduction of staffing levels, developing ongoing and prolonged investment revenue, and all other measures or strategies that emerge during consultations and research. Furthermore, a preliminary or draft list of recommendations would be expected by May 31 in order to facilitate delegations for the 2026 AMO conference, and the final document will be presented to the Mayor and Council of the 2026-2030 Town of Renfrew Council.
All right. Any other notices of motion? Hearing none. No closed. Confirmatory bylaw. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the confirmatory bylaw 2026-02, and that it be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover? Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Legree. Any questions? Clerk Eric?
No, sorry.
Oh.
My system just crashed.
Oh. All in favor? Carried.
Wait, who motioned that? Sorry.
Councillor McDonald and Councillor Legree.
Okay, sorry, my system just flaked.
Upcoming meetings, regular closed meeting, 27th. What's that? Okay, that's not right. Carolyn, I'm at 20. Okay. Regular closed council meeting, January 27th, 2026 at 10. Regular council meeting, January 27th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. And we are officially
Sorry, through you, Mayor, and just before we close off, I would note that meeting, the regular council meeting on January 27th at 5:30 p.m. will include a public budget meeting.
Right.
Notices have just gone out to the public during this meeting, but as a reminder, that will include a portion in that meeting for the public budget. Anybody who would like to see the information, it is on the website. It is currently being listed under the strong mayors, under the mayoral decisions. The content is all listed under MDE-2026-001. Also, the agenda, when it's released, will have the information also included. But the slide decks and the discussion that happened today will be included on this agenda as a post-agenda following this meeting.
Thank you. All right. We are now officially adjourned at 7:44 p.m. Thank you, council. Welcome back.
you.